Hi there. Now we're going to do lesson number 105. God's peace and joy are mine. God's peace and joy are yours. Today we will accept them knowing they belong to us. And we will try to understand these gifts increase as we receive them. So there has to be an active participation to receive the gifts that God gave us so that they can be increased. They are not like to the gifts the world can give, in which the giver loses as he gives the gift. The taker is the richer by his loss. So in the world, if I give you a gift, I have lost, let's say the gift cost me $25, or I made it, I created it, or I cut a flower from my garden and I'm giving it to you. In the world, I lost $25. I lost the time that I invested in maybe making the gift. I lost the flower. My yard now is less one flower because I gave it to you. That's what this means. The ego operates between when we give, we are losing. Such are not gifts. Such are not gifts. That is not gifts when you're thinking about it that way, but bargains made with guilt. I'm going to give this to you so that you like me. I'm going to give you that flower so that, you'll be nice to me and don't do bad things to my yard. Maybe your dog won't do something to my yard that I'd rather not do, so I'm going to give you flowers. I'm going to give you a gift so that you can see how nice I am. I'm going to give you a really expensive gift so that you'll really, really like me. So those are bargains that we do made with guilt. The truly given gift entails no loss. So when you can begin to give without an expectation of getting, now you're truly giving from a place of abundance. It is impossible that one can gain because another loses. Because if I give it to you with joy, I have received joy. It's impossible for me to have a loss. This implies a limit and an insufficiency. Do you realize that most of our problems are because we believe in lack? We believe that there's not enough. So we are trying to get from others or protect what we got. That's what the whole ecosystem is set up on, is a belief in lack and limitation because of the insanity of believing in separation. That there's two of us, so there's a limited amount, and it's a bargaining. If I give it to you, you get more and I lose. So I better get it and make sure that I've got more so that I can be the winner. Paragraph 2. No gift is given thus. Such gifts are but a bid for a more valuable return. A loan with interest to be paid in full. A temporary lending meant to be a pledge of debt to be repaid with more than was received by him who took the gift. So let me give you an example. When I was married to Ken, even before I married him, Ken, when I first met him, was one of the truly most generous men I had ever met. He just totally, completely wanted to share everything he had with me. Now, it was wonderful to have somebody adore me, cherish me, want to do so many things for me. It was absolutely delightful. I'd never experienced, other than when I was growing up, where we were very wealthy and there was always tons of abundance. In my adult life, I always worked to get. I was totally consumed by my ego, so I was working to get stuff. Then what began to happen with Ken and I is that I began to feel that what he was giving me was manipulative. That I needed to be very grateful, let him know how grateful I was to him, or that I needed to wear what he had given me when he wanted me to wear it, whether it was earrings or a ring or a piece of clothing. Well, if it wasn't something that I really liked or didn't go with what I wanted to wear that day, I began to feel guilt. So I began to play the manipulative game. Then I am going to gift you my wearing the earrings so that I can get you to not be mad at me. And that activated guilt inside of me. I felt guilty because I knew I was manipulating. I had enough awareness to understand that, but I wasn't practiced enough to say no to the game. So as time went on, then we got married, and then the gifts were bigger because now he's paying the mortgage. Now he wants to cover all the expenses for my car. Like I said, very generous man. His soul was giving. His ego was saying, what can I get from this? What can I be able to get in return from this? So it began to feel very heavy on me that everything that I was receiving came with a heavy price. So I began to start saying, no, I I don't need that. I don't need more jewelry. I don't need anything. So I began to manipulate by rejecting his gifts. Now, granted, that didn't feel so good to his generous side, because they really wanted to give me, but then his ego side was feeling rejected. So the dynamics were getting set up for a special love to turn eventually into a special hate. So let me keep going with this. Paragraph number 2 still, sentence 3. This strange distortion of what giving means, this strange distortion of what giving means pervades all levels of the world you see. So the boss wants you to give in the hours, and then it will give you the paycheck. It's a trade. It's a bargain. Yeah. And if you don't give the boss what the boss wants, even if he is not clear with you what it is that he wants, they're going to get upset. We tell our children to eat certain things before we give them the dessert. So there's a bargaining that gets set up. We got to give to get. That is always manipulation, because it's not being given out of joy. It's being given out of control. It's being given out of manipulation. It's being given for a reason that is always going to be ego-based, for the purpose of controlling. We have to understand that is the way that gifting happens in the world. So sentence number 4 in paragraph 2. It strips all meaning from the gifts you give and leaves you nothing in the ones you take. It strips all meaning from the gifts you give and leaves you nothing, no meaning in the gifts that you take. So I was taking things from Ken that became meaningless. I was doing it out of protection. Talk about me being in my ego, my spiritualized ego, who knew plenty of these things that I'm teaching, but wasn't fully practiced in living it. Why? Because my mind was still being trained. We all are going to go through the training for however long it takes us. When we give gifts, I remember one time a friend of mine, her daughter got married, and one of the cousins came to the wedding and did not bring a gift. And that bothered my friend for years, that the person she invited came to the wedding and did not bring a gift. She took from the wedding. She took the food from the wedding, the celebration from the wedding, and did not exchange with a gift. And I thought to myself, wow, all those years of suffering, instead of being grateful that this person, I think it was her cousin, came and was at the wedding, brought her presents to the wedding, instead of receiving her cousin's presents, she felt that her cousin took from them. What a way to remember a wedding. I mean, that's the insanity of the ego mind. Paragraph 3. A major learning goal this course has set is to reverse your view of giving so that you can receive. For giving has become a source of fear, and so you would avoid the only means by which you can receive. How many of us, let's say women, and it happens to men as well, but women, how many of us will have sex with somebody out of fear that if I don't have sex with my husband, he's going to get mad. He's going to be grumpy. I'm going to have to deal with this tomorrow. Or have fear that, we make up stories. I got a headache. I can't do this. All for the purpose of feeding this insanity in our mind that the ego has created, that giving and getting should happen somehow as a bargain. But the Course wants us to understand that it's totally different. So let's keep going. Sentence number 3 in paragraph 3. Accept God's peace and joy, and you will learn a different way of looking at gifts. God's gifts will never lessen when they are given away. They but increase thereby. So when you accept that you have joy and peace inside of you, and you begin to give them, you bring your joyful self to the party. You bring your peaceful self to the party. You are, in essence, giving your love, your joy, your peace. You will see that they will increase the more you give them away. So my friend, if she could have received her cousin's happiness for being at the wedding, my friend would have increased her own happiness. She would have received happiness. But instead, she felt that her cousin took from her, never acknowledging that her cousin was happy and joyful at the wedding. But when you understand that if If my friend would have given gratitude, she would have felt more gratitude, because giving is how we multiply what it is that we want to receive. So let's keep going. Paragraph 4. As heaven's peace and joy intensify when you accept them as God's gifts to you, so does the joy of your Creator grow when you accept His joy and peace as yours. So as we receive God's gifts of joy and peace and accept that they are ours, we begin to feel them. As we feel them, we begin to return them. Who do we return them to? Well, if there's only one of us here, if God has created one son, which is what the Course is teaching us, one child, one being, then we're giving it back to God. So that infinite giving and receiving begins to happen between God and us. Because when two or more are gathered is when I see another person, when I have an experience of another, and I treat them as the God that they are, because that is what is happening. They are the presence of God expressed as them. When I treat them as God, I am extending the love and joy God gave me. That isn't me. I'm sharing it. They're receiving it. They're giving it back to me. So there is an exchange that begins to happen. But the thing is that I don't receive their peace and joy. I receive it as I give it. The movement, the flow of it coming out of me is what feels good. We think it feels good when somebody loves us, but it's actually because we're loving them in the moment. We're giving it to them. That's what's moving. So we're receiving as we're giving our love. So sentence number 2 in paragraph 4, true giving is creation. Because as I'm giving my joy, my peace, I am creating a joyful, peaceful environment. As I give my love, I'm creating a loving environment. As I give my gratitude, I'm creating a grateful environment. It extends the limitless to the unlimited. So God gave us something that is limitless. Now we are sending it back out and making it unlimited. Eternity to timelessness, and love unto itself. Because when we're giving that love, we're putting it back out into the ethers, into the universe, into what is God. And of course, it's as we're going to breathe it in. As we put out love, as we're loving and kind and joyful and peaceful and grateful, we're breathing that in. That's why to give is to receive, because we're not sending out hate and thinking it's not coming back to us. We're going to breathe that energy of that hate in. We're going to take it in. We're going to inhale it. We're going to hear it. It's going to come back to us, because giving is what we will receive. This is a huge concept that is so important that we understand. Sentence number 4 in paragraph 4, it adds to all that is complete already. Not in simple terms of adding more. We're not adding more love to what God already created. For that implies that it was less before, that we took it and we're putting it over there. It adds by letting what cannot contain itself fulfill its aim of giving everything it has away, securing it forever for itself. Because once you know that you can give love, joy, peace, gratitude forever, you have just guaranteed you're going to have it in infinite abundance forever. Because to feel the joy, you've got to be joyful. You got to give joy. You got to be joyful for the dog, for the cat, for the weather, for the rain, for the sun, for the snow. You got to be grateful for the firing. You got to be grateful for the divorce. You got to be grateful for the cancer, because it's the beingness in you that gets to bring peace and joy to the situation. When we understand that there are people who have gone through tragic according to the ego's experiences, and they say that they were altered, it was the best thing that ever happened to them, is because they came to the place of realizing that that thing that happened could not take the essence of who they are. That they could, with peace, deal with the situation, with joy, deal with the situation, with love, deal with the situation, with gratitude, find what to be grateful of, deal with the situation, and it transforms them. Now the outside doesn't have power over them. But we don't have to wait to get cancer to do that. We can start just by being kind to our child, to our neighbor, to our friend, to our coworker, to the person that crosses us as we're driving, by extending that love, that joy, that peace that is already in us, so we can feel the movement of it. Once you begin to feel it moving through you, it's going to feel so good, you want to keep it going. All right. That's how you secure it for yourself forever. As you give it, you know it's yours continually. Paragraph 5. So today, accept God's peace and joy as yours. Let him complete himself as he defines completion. God defines completion through the statement that we already have everything we could possibly ever want. That has value. That has value, which is eternal, has nothing to do with the external things in the world. You will understand that what completes God must complete his Son as well. So if God is complete with love, that's the only thing that's going to complete us. If God is complete with peace, it's the only thing that's going to complete us, because we have to feel it. We have to receive it to be in alignment with God's will. He cannot give through loss. God is not taking or giving us love and losing it. As God gives us love, places it in here, and we put it out, God is receiving it. This is why that completion takes place. God is receiving it in the other person. God is receiving it as the butterfly with our admiration. God is receiving it through the dog with our care and concern and love for it. God is receiving it through the enemies that the ego has, through our saving them from our judgments. God in the other, whatever that other is, appears as other, is receiving the very thing that it created. That's how we create peace on earth. That's how we create heaven on earth. That's how we create a new earth. No more can you. No more can you. He cannot give through loss, neither can we. It's impossible. If you give love, you're never going to lose it. Because it gets activated in you. Receive his gift of joy and peace today, and he will thank you for your gift to him. How do you know God is thanking you? Because more love and joy are being generated in here. That's the thank you from God. Because people out there are being saved from our judgments. People are there receiving our happiness, our joyful selves. That is God in the other, receiving what we are giving, and then the infinite exchange continues. Such a beautiful plan. Paragraph 6. Today, our practice periods will start a little differently. Begin today by thinking of those brothers and sisters who have been denied by you the peace and joy that are their right under the equal laws of God. Who have you been angry with? Who have you been denying your love to? Who have you been deciding you can't be peaceful around? Who are you doing that? I did that with Ken for a long time. I decided I couldn't be peaceful around him because he was expecting me to do something. Well, guess what? I wasn't being peaceful. I wasn't extending peace. I wasn't feeling peace. He didn't take it from me. He was just doing what Ken was doing. But I was interpreting it and blocking myself from receiving what God willed for me to receive, because I was willing with my ego to block the feeling of the peace and the joy that was in me, because my mind was interpreting what Ken was doing. So therefore, I was punishing him. You're not going to receive my joy. Guess who wasn't receiving the joy? Me. It wasn't extending. Amazing. So sentence number 3 in paragraph 6. Here, you denied them to yourself. I'm the one who suffered the loss of love, joy, and peace when I was trying to punish Ken. And here, you must return to claim them as your own. So here, knowing that that's who I am with this new relationship with Dan, if Dan is not doing the things that I think would be joyful for me, I go do them. I want to experience my joy. It's such a different relationship, being conscious that I am the source of all of the goodness that I want to experience, because God placed them here. And if Dan doesn't want to feel them, it's because he doesn't understand, because his mind has not been trained to know that is in him, because that's where God placed them. So if he begins to feel that I needed to do something to make him feel good, my job is to say, no, it's not my job to make you feel good. It's your job to make you feel good by acknowledging that God already put the feeling good feelings in you. It's my job to feel good. Then let's bring those two together and have a good time together, or keep your unhappy self apart, and I'll take my happy self somewhere else. Or when I get to the place of unhappiness, I will keep my unhappy self over here, and I come in and I check inside, what's going on? What am I believing that is blocking the truth that I know is my truth? So what a beautiful, powerful experience I've had, because with Ken, I got to see how I knew it, but I wasn't practicing it. With Dan, I get to practice it. It's just so beautiful. The walk and the talk are becoming more congruent, and it feels amazing. So, paragraph 7. Think of your enemies a little while and tell each one as he occurs to you. My brother, my sister, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. I began to understand this towards the latter years that I was with Ken. And that's why I was able to leave that relationship. It completed, and I left with love in my heart for him. I left very peaceful about it. And of course, I had my few little moments, but then I was able to quickly bring myself back to center, come back to know that my salvation was mine because God gave it to me. And till this day, years after we got divorced, I love him dearly. Why? Because every time I love him, I feel love in me. And the love of God is what I'm extending, not Laina's love. Laina can only block the love that God created. Laina thinking with Laina's ego can only block. But when I align my will with God's will, I want to love everything, because that's how I get to feel all the love that God placed in me. So my work with Dan is to make certain that does not turn into a special love where he is the source of the love for me. Instead, is for me to be the source of the love that God already sourced in me. And that way, no matter what Dan does, I still feel my happy, joyful, peaceful self. Whether we stay together or not, it doesn't matter, because I will take my happy self anywhere else, because I trust this benevolent universe. And if I'm meant to have a partner, there'll always be one there. I have so many friends. I have my family. I have my clients, my students. My life is so rich because I love everything and everyone. Would it be fun to have an extended experience with Dan? Absolutely. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't stop my joy. It cannot. It doesn't stop my peace. It cannot. It doesn't stop my love. It cannot. Because that would be to deny what God created as truth in me. I would be thinking against God if I chose to believe that somebody can take from me or keep me from receiving what God already gave me. My brother, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. I only want to offer, because that's how I acknowledge what God gave me. Sentence number 3 in paragraph 7. Thus you prepare yourself to recognize God's gifts to you, and let your mind be free of all that would prevent success today. Now are you ready to accept the gift of peace and joy that God has given you? Now you are ready to experience the joy and peace you have denied yourself. We deny it by blocking it, by believing it's not here. It's got to come to me from somewhere else. Now you can say, God's peace and joy are mine. For you have given what you would receive. As I extend my joy, no matter what anybody else is doing, I feel joyful. Who doesn't want to have an ongoing joyful experience once you've tasted how delicious that is? That's what bliss is. Bliss is the recognition that what I have, I got to give it away. That's how it multiplies. Because I want to give what I want to receive. Do unto others. Do unto others. So beautiful. Paragraph 8. You must succeed today if you prepare your mind as we suggested. Get your mind aligned with the truth and commit to not using others as excuses to block what you already have, but use others as the opportunity for you to give it, so that you will have the experience of receiving the energy, the flow of love and joy and peace. For you have let all bars to peace and joy be lifted up. We imprison ourselves when we make others responsible. That's how we lose love. But not because it's not here. It's because we are not using our mind, because it's not trained to go inside and retrieve the love and then extend it. Instead, we've used our mind to justify why the other person can't get it, so we imprison ourselves and being on guard about what the world is doing to us so that we can protect ourselves. Okay, for you have led all bars to peace and joy be lifted up. And what is yours can come to you at last. What's already here can come out at last. So tell yourself, God's peace and joy are mine, and close your eyes a while, and let his voice assure you that the words you speak are true. Close your eyes and let his voice assure you that the words you speak are truth. I had to convince myself that it was true that giving and receiving are one. It took me a while. I am not going to deny that. In the world of time, we're using time to undo time. It took time for me, for what it had taken decades to believe that giving meant that I was losing, until I shifted to practice, to commit to practice deliberately giving that love so that I could receive the feeling of it. I had to do it a lot. And then I'm convinced now. You couldn't tell me otherwise now. Paragraph 9, spend your 5 minutes thus with him each time you can today with God, with Holy Spirit. But do not think that less is worthless when you cannot give him more. So do whatever time you can, but just keep in mind that God's peace and joy are already yours. At least remember hourly to say the words which call to him to give you what he wills to give and wills you to receive. God's peace and joy are mine. God wants to give that to us, and we want to receive it. How do we receive more of it? By giving it away. Determine not to interfere today with what he wills. And if a brother seems to tempt you to deny God's gift to him, see it as but another chance to let yourself receive the gifts of God's as yours. Oh, Dan didn't give me a compliment today, and that makes me feel not joyful. Oh, well, wait a second. God already created me complete. I'll give myself a compliment. Laina, I love you. Now I am sourcing what God sourced in me. What God placed in me, I am activating. That takes Dan off the hook. It takes anybody off the hook, because it puts me back into coming in to receive what God has already given me. Then bless your brothers thankfully and say, my brother, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. So when you give to others what you're wanting to experience, the love, the joy, the peace, you are going to be in that moment giving God the greatest gift, because you will be extending what God is. You will become a vessel of extension for God. Now you will be bringing that love, that light, that joy, that peace to the world. Remember, we are the light of the world. We have to shine it. A lighthouse, if it blocks the windows and it doesn't let the light go out, it doesn't do any good. The light just stays in the lighthouse. But to be able to cast a light on those who have not been exposed to that giving and receiving are one, we must be willing to turn that. We don't turn it on. We must be willing to not block it. And we block it through our thoughts. We need to stop thinking that others have to behave differently for us to feel joy. We need to give our love and our joy and our gratitude and appreciation for the fact that it's in us. You're not going to say, oh, I'm grateful that you didn't compliment me. You could if you were really advanced and you want to say, I'm grateful you didn't compliment me because I gave me the opportunity to compliment myself. You could do that, but you could say, I love me and I love God, and I'm just going to let my joy go. If he doesn't want to receive it, she doesn't want to receive it, it's okay, it doesn't matter. Give yourself the gift that's already been given you. God's peace and joy are mine. Take them. Because when you receive them, you will want to share them. And then you'll get more. What a cool game this is. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.